is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joire.
Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joire, and today is Wednesday, November 1st, 2017. My guest today is the awesome and absolutely tremendous Florence Ion. Hi, Flo. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for that introduction. That is very kind of you.
Well, it's the least I can do because you are pretty awesome and unique and special. So, how are things with you?
How are things? I've actually been diving a lot more into some smart home tech lately.
Ooh. So
I've really been embracing my true suburban inner self by automating my tiny little house with little things. I even used, I set up like a whole little scene in my window for the kids last night for trick-or-treaters.
Oh, sweet.
I put some I bought some zombies at the dollar store and I hung them in the window, and then I put like bulbs in the lamps and, put them all to red so it looked like, hell.
Right on. Yeah, we did trick or treat. I'm up in Portland right now for this at my place up there. And it's, although it's not in the suburbs, Portland is very suburban anyway.
It's so family friendly.
Right. We're like less than 3 miles from downtown. And yet there's yards around us and houses that are not attached to each other and
I love
kids
it.
walking around. So we did the whole trick or treating thing too. It was great.
I love it.
Cool. So let's talk about phones. There's quite a bit to talk about, actually. There's rumors like the OnePlus 5T.
Oh,
we can talk about those rumors. There is a device that just launched. By the time we listen to this podcast, it will be out and public.
Mm-hmm.
The HTC U11 Plus and the HTC U11 Life. The iPhone 10 reviews are starting to trickle out, and there's some really interesting stories around that. The fact that Apple did not seed review units for an entire week to most tech publications, which is kind of new and different and probably very annoying to most of them. So all this stuff is what I want to cover. But before we start, can we talk about Mint SIM? Because I know you are a Mint SIM customer, and while they're not sponsoring this podcast yet, maybe one day they will, I mostly want to talk to them because they supplied me with a SIM to try out for a while, and so far it's been great. It's on T-Mobile's network. I have no complaints. What has your experience been, Flo?
Well, so typically I am on Big Red. That's my primary phone number. I've been only on Verizon for the majority of my cell phone using life. So that's kind of all I'm known here in the Bay Area. Besides kind of review phones that I've held on to. But the Mint SIM is essentially become like this second. I like the fact that it doesn't really cost that much money, and I get like 2 gigs of data a month roughly to use, which I don't really tend to use the whole thing anyway because, it's not really my primary phone, but I usually just pop the SIM into whatever secondary phone I have, especially if it's like a T-Mobile phone. It does piggyback, I believe, on the T-Mobile and Sprint networks. So, I found it to be like I kind of end up using those phones as like a music phone in my car. So that way, I can just have my primary phone doing whatever. And then I have like the music phone in the glove compartment. And it works pretty well. I mean, the thing about here in the Bay Area, I found that like on BART, for instance, going through the tunnels, it'll really sort of go down to like I'll lose streaming for a second. But that's kind of standard when you're taking a train through all those hills and underground and such, that it's kind of bound to happen. But it's not like I said, it's not super expensive. So
are you using T-Mobile at all? Like, because my understanding is that they're a T-Mobile virtual network operator. So they're not really using any other network. So they should have the same performance and coverage and all that as T-Mo. Now I'm a T-Mo customer as my main. So I haven't used the SIM enough yet. It's just been a week to really tell like how good it is. But so far it seems to be pretty much exactly like my T-Mobile service. Spotty where T-Mobile is spotty, great where T-Mobile is great. And when you have good performance, like good connectivity on T-Mobile, performance is out the roof because that's their thing. They're the fastest network in the US. So yeah, so far so good. Have you been able to compare at all?
No, I preface that just to kind of let you know, like where I'm coming from, the sort of Verizon side of things. I think it's on par with T-Mobile just based on, I know a couple, people who live here in the burbs with me who have T-Mobile, some colleagues, and we've talked about sort of like difference in coverage out here, and it seems to be on par. But the one thing I do like about the Mint SIM, I will say, is that I can pop it into a Chinese phone and sometimes, or I should say an overseas phone.
Yep.
And sometimes it doesn't always get, you're not getting 4G and 3G all the time with those phones because they don't always have the bands necessary.
Yeah, exactly.
But at least I can get some use from that phone just to kind of like test it out on the go a little bit.
Right.
So I like that.
Totally. Mostly, worst case scenario, since T-Mobile still has 2G in some markets, you can get down on 2G edge,
yep.
Right? But I'm actually that brings up something I didn't think about when I did the intro, which was I have a phone here that I received from Xiaomi, which is the Mi A1 Android One phone, and it is not a US device, right? It's for the Indian market primarily. I think the one I have is quote unquote the global model, but I think it's not optimized for US bands. But I'm getting LTE on T-Mobile, but only 3G on AT&T. So, obviously on the Mint SIM, I'm getting LTE. So there's a good example of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for unlocked devices, and it's part of the reason I went to VoiceStream before they were known as T-Mobile in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
Was that they were very welcoming of you bringing your own devices. Even around 2000, 2001, I was importing unlocked not T-Mobile, but Sony Ericsson phones and Nokia phones from Europe, and I wanted to use them because they're quad band GSM. I wanted to use them on a network in the US, and Singular at the time was like, forget it. Like, we're not touching you with a 10-foot pole. Whereas VoiceStream was like, yeah, sure, bring your phone. We'll put the SIM in. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I joined I think a month or two before they got acquired or rebranded into T-Mobile. And get this, at the time I was paying for unlimited data edge for $5 a month.
Oh, I remember those days. Those were beautiful, beautiful days.
There was nothing. It was edge speeds, but I could tether over Bluetooth with my laptop. And at the time, that felt like the future, right?
Yeah.
I remember I was, around 2003, 2004, at my video game job, taking a break, going to the coffee shop, putting down my T68i Sony Ericsson phone next to my laptop and tethering wirelessly via Bluetooth and surfing Engadget.com. Have you heard of that website? Good old times. But anyway, so look, the deal with Mint, and this is, I think, the crux of the story, and I'll read right out of the press release. Not that I want to, be their PR person or anything, but they gave me a SIM to try out. The least I can say is tell you what the deal is. There's a deal going on, I guess, for the holidays, for Thanksgiving / Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And it says the limited time promotion offers customers 3 free months of unlimited talk and text, along with 2 gigabytes of 4G LTE data each month, with the purchase of any unlocked device from bestbuy.com. So that means if you go to Best Buy and you want to buy, say, a Pixel or something unlocked, because, why wouldn't you buy a phone unlocked these days? You get to try out Mint for 3 months for free with 2 gigabytes each month. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
There you go. So that's the deal. And I'm glad you're having a good time with it. Honestly, what I'm actually looking for ideally is a virtual network operator that is on AT&T, because T-Mobile has me well covered, right? I am a customer. I have 2 lines with them. I have 2 SIMs to use. Everything is happy and good. And it's, $100, unlimited everything, and international data roaming, the whole shebang, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I need to test AT&T sometimes, and I have an AT&T line, but it's costing me an arm and a leg every month for just testing purposes. And so I want to, give them a big middle finger and say, bye-bye, AT&T, I'm no longer paying you a monthly fee. And instead, I would love to jump on a virtual network operator that is basically piggybacking on AT&T's network. And so I'm putting the word out there to my listeners and saying, hey, if you guys know anything, hit me up on Twitter or anywhere else for that matter, email, Google Plus, Facebook, and let me know where I should go. Straight Talk used to have AT&T, but I don't know if they do anymore. There's another one that I tried out, but it just wasn't really that great. I can't remember what they're called. Thank God for them, because now they don't get the bad publicity that way. Anyway, if you hear anything too, I'd like to know. But Mint, I think, is going to be awesome for these occasional times when I just need to try a phone out for a little while and I need to, sign up for a month or something. Yeah. Cool. So, phones. Let's start with that HTC maybe. I know you've seen the materials, so you kind of have an idea. Let's talk about the U11 Life. So I've had the device for a bit less than a week. And if you look at it at first sight, like you pick it up and you look at it, it looks like a U11. It's uncanny. It really looks like you just picked up a U11, like full blown $650 whatever dollar phone. But it's $350, right? So it's a lot cheaper. And at first it totally looks like just slightly shrunk down, because the display is 5.2 inch instead of 5.5. And if you turn it over, you got that, beautiful liquid blue, whatever they call it, finish, right? So it just looks as hot and sexy.
Sapphire blue.
Yeah, is that what it's called? Okay. And so you see that, and the camera, there's a single flash. That's the telltale. If you see it face down on a table, you'll be able to tell apart, because the U11, Big Daddy, as I'm going to call it from now on, because, we got to be naughty on this show. Big Daddy has a dual LED flash. Little boy, whatever, has the single. So that's how you can tell them apart. But if you pick them up, they feel great in hand. They feel, well made. There's no doubt. It's HTC. But the thing that's bumming me out, and this is my first little moment, is it's all plastic.
Oh.
All of it.
Oh.
At first I thought, okay, they replaced the glass part in the back with acrylic, which is great, right? I get it. Like, it's really expensive to do this molded glass thing with this liquid water, whatever finish, right? I was like, okay, I can live with that. It's half the price pretty much. Like, come on. But then I realized that the frame, that they made it look like aluminum, but it's not. Wah, 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 wah. And you're going to say, well, who cares? I mean, like, it's a mid-range phone. Yeah, but I mean, one of the things about the U11 is that it just feels so, like, I don't know, And so this makes me feel like, I'm not getting my money's worth. I'm sorry. And the reason I'm saying that is it's probably biased. It's because I see so many phones out of China right now that cost $100 less, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is $350. That I see phone that cost $250 that are all metal, and they're beautifully made, right?
Yeah, I mean, Honor and Huawei make like very beautiful phones for not that much money.
Not even that. Think of, for example, Lenovo's phones, the Moto G5 Plus or G5S Plus, I think is the one I'm thinking about, because the G5 Plus is technically a plastic frame with a metal back, so that does not fully
But it still feels nice.
Yeah, it still feels nice.
It doesn't look so budgety.
And of course, the G4 is at a different price point. It's $50 more, the Android One phone. I'm not going to, and that's all metal and glass. That's a glass sandwich, actually. So that one's really fancy. But so, yeah, and again, the Xiaomi, it's not sold in the US. It's not in the same price bracket. It's not a competitor. I want to make it very clear. But the Xiaomi A1 Android One phone is also all metal and glass, and it's $229, right? So, But it's not as good, to be honest. Here's the thing. At first, I was put off by that, and then I started using the phone. So this is my story. It's like, I was like, oh man, come on. Half the price of a U11, you make it look like a U11, and it's not really a U11, and it's all plastic. Go away. And then I started using it, and I was like, oh crap, this is so good. Oh yeah. Like, get this. Okay, you're getting, I swear to you, 90% of the U11's experience in half the price. It's that good. Examples, all the software stuff that you're used to from HTC is in there, including AirPlay support, which, as you know, they're the only ones who do that. The camera doesn't have OIS. The specs on paper are kind of generic, 16 megapixel f over 2.0. Both front and rear cameras are identical, other than the rear has autofocus. And you're thinking to yourself, those specs don't look that great. And then you start taking photos and you realize that they've worked really closely with Qualcomm and the ISP and that processor to really get the imaging top notch. And it takes great photos, not like U11 photos or Pixel 2 photos. Of course not, right? But we're getting to, I think they beat everyone else in that price point for imaging, which I think is really impressive.
So I didn't get much of a chance to really experience the U11, which is a bummer because
Jeff, are you hearing this? Jeff to the rescue.
I've heard a lot of awesome things about it. But I do have to say, and I don't mean to veer this off topic, but
we can tangent. This podcast is all about tangents. Take a tangent. Go for it.
Well, we were talking before the podcast that we were going to be talking about this, and I was just thinking, one of the reasons that I am currently wielding the Pixel 2, and one of the reasons is because I know that HTC is behind it, and I just had such a great experience with the Pixel XL last year. Yeah. It was just such a great phone to use throughout the last year. I just sold it to recoup some of the money I spent on the Pixel 2. But I am enjoying the Pixel 2 so far. And now I just sort of have this different, feeling about HTC. I feel like they're really finding their stride with the latest crop of products that have come out. I feel like it's great that they're not having, the screen display issues that have sort of befallen the LG variant of the Pixel, because even though those aren't, manufacturers that we're supposed to associate with those phones, of course, those of us enthusiasts, we know who is behind those phones. And so to just kind of know that is like, ooh, it's like, you kind of want to root for the underdog not to fall in.
And that's how I've always felt, honestly, about HTC is, to me, they've always been an underdog that I've really loved. And so I'm super critical of them. Like, I'm really like, I want you to give me what I want. And so,
like a friend you love.
Yeah. And so I had to kind of step back after the first 2 days where I was like, I couldn't get over the whole plastic thing. And I was like, listen, just chill out for a second, because look, the experience on this is getting better. As I started using it, I'm like, this is really good. This is like really a lot of value for the money, because you're getting...
How much is it again?
It's $350 US, so $349. And I mean, you can probably get the U11 for $650, but I think the list for the U11, the big one is the flagship is like $700-ish, right? So you're getting half the price basically. And I'm like, okay, most people won't care that it's plastic. Mm-hmm. It looks and feels like a U11. Yes, it's fake, but it looks and feels like a U11. So get over it, Miriam. Get over it. And so I did. And honestly, once I started using it, the screen, oh my God. Okay, so the other thing, the camera, the specs look really pedestrian. And then I used it and I was like, wow, okay, they really sorted that out. And then the screen is just a 1080p screen, right? 5.2 inches instead of a Quad HD 5.5. But man, it is super LCD, like whatever IPS technology that HTC's been using for a number of years, and it looks like a freaking rock star, that screen. Like, I'm serious. I'm like, it looks better than my Pixel 2 XL screen. And I can hear the snark coming out of you saying, that's like not a very tall order, Miriam. But look, I'm just saying, like, I would say it looks probably close to the Pixel 2, the small Pixel screen. That's a 1080p screen. That's 5 inches. So this is slightly bigger, 5.2. And I know that the Pixel 2, baby Pixel 2 is OLED, and this is an IPS or LCD based panel. But I'm telling you guys, this screen is, in vivid mode, the screen is more vivid than a Note 8.
Oh,
and I didn't think that was possible with an LCD. Okay, so there you go.
Well, I see here this also has Usonic with active noise cancellation,
so that's the other thing.
Which is kind of neat.
You get the Usonic earbuds with the sound shaping, like the sound tuning, and the active noise cancellation in the box, which is like something like the retail is like worth $79 or $80, right? For free, built in. You don't get an headphone jack adapter. Like that's the other thing. It's the first mid-ranger on the market in the US, at least, that doesn't have a headphone jack.
Welcome to the future.
Yeah, welcome to the future. That scares me because, especially in mid-range. But look, and the fact that there's no headphone jack in the box, I they had to be price conscious, even if it's just $15. Yeah, you get the Usonic earbuds, and they're pretty awesome. At least most people like them. I'm not a huge fan because I'm really picky about audio, but I understand that they're trying really hard to make a case for these. And I think if you're going to mimic the U11 experience, bringing the Usonic earbuds in for the box for free is more important than the headphone adapter. Besides, here's the thing I want to tell everyone, and I told this on the podcast last week. The U11 headphone adapter sounds like crap. So if it didn't come in the box, save yourself $15. Go buy the Pixels headphone adapter, which sounds way better and is perfectly compatible with the U11 and U11 Mini. Mini, no, sorry, not Mini. Oh, I shouldn't say that. He's going to kill me. Jeff.
There's a lot of U11s.
I know. It's the U11 Life, I mean. So we're named Life, but I guess Lifestyle, whatever. So there you go. There you have the thing. And then if you look at the specs, maybe you want to go through the specs with me real quick. It's a Snapdragon 630, which is pretty high end in the mid-range world. And it's got 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of built-in storage, micro SD, of course.
Up to 2 terabytes. Which
is kind of amazing. Because I don't even think there is 2 terabyte cards yet. Maybe there are, but they got to be more than, they got to be like $1,000 or something.
Yeah, and this is more than the phone.
Yeah, by far. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that there is a version for the global market. So the North American market, we're getting like the U11 software experience from HTC Sense, right? And then the global version there's an Android One version of that phone. So in case you're wondering why I brought up the Xiaomi earlier and also the G4, Moto G4, because those two are Android One phones. So even though the U11 we're getting in the US is not an Android One device, there is an Android One variant for Europe and some foreign markets. Interesting, right? So there you go. That's the U11 Life in a nutshell. One more thing about it. It has the squeeze feature.
It has, the squeeze feature, yes. Yeah. So I'm still getting used to that squeezing.
I'm not too sure it's a thing for me, but I just wanted to say, this is how much they mimic the U11 Big Brother experience, right? Like the flagship one. They brought down pretty much everything that they could at that price point, and including the squeezes, the edge sense or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like HTC is really reestablishing this sort of status quo about its phones by saying, these are the range of phones we're offering in these price points. You're going to get the features that trickle down, the features that we offer, Google Assistant, Alexa, the squeezing, and the edge sense.
I know, it's a whole jamboree of U11 experience all baked into one. Yeah, I think this is a very smart thing. And so in the end, I've kind of come around on this phone. I'm still bummed about the plastic and the lack of headphone jack, which is really the only two things I would ding this phone for at this point. Yeah, and then everything else about it, it's amazing. I mean, if you're into a pure Android experience, you can potentially import the Android One version of this phone. So you have some options. For me, the only thing that I'm really big about, excited about when it comes to HTC's user experience, honestly, is AirPlay support right now. I'm not, Sense is so lightweight now, right? That it's really feels almost just like a pure Android device to start with anyway. So I'm not sure I'd need an Android One version of this phone, frankly, even though I guess the Android One version will get the updates sooner. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, that's the one benefit of the Android One program.
Yeah. So that's the U11 Life. Wow. Yeah. So if you guys are listening and you want to see what it looks like, I'm sure there's lots of people who publish reviews today. And I say today, I mean when this podcast goes live. However, I will have a YouTube review video up for you guys, so check that out on my YouTube. So what's the next phone we should talk about, Flo? What do you think? You get the list there.
I mean, the U11 Plus.
Oh, of
I'm
course,
just drooling over. I mean, the thing that stood out to me was Android 8.0, first of all.
Right. That's the other thing. The U11 Life comes with, right now, it still comes with a Nougat, and it's going to get, with Oreo, it's going to, no, the other way around, Nougat, and it's going to get Oreo. It's going to get 8 in the next month, apparently. So, and it's going to be available on Timo. And I think that by the time this podcast is live, the price will be public. So the price is $299 on Timo, $50 off.
That's not bad.
So that's not a bad deal, right?
That's not
All
bad.
right, what is it? Looking at, I haven't looked. So just to be clear, I only have the U11 Life. I have not played with the U11 Plus. I've only looked, like you, Flo, I only have first impressions from the materials. What do you think?
Well, I was going to ask you, what is that circuitry? So there's a press photo.
Yeah.
That is part of this package, and it's the back of the HTC U11 Plus, and I see this sort of like circuitry, this round circuit board on the back. I'm just trying to discern what that's supposed to be.
So there's a translucent version of the phone.
Okay.
So it's not transparent, but kind of like smoky,
like opaque, maybe
like a smoky translucent version. And what you're seeing there is the wireless charging coil or the NFC coil or both. I'm not sure. I have to look at the specs. Obviously, the fingerprint reader is back there because. So yeah, you guys are listening, going, we're not seeing the picture right now, Miriam. What are you talking about? It's okay. Let me fill them in. This is a U11. Essentially, that has been put on steroids and has gained an ultra-wide front screen. So it has very small bezels, top and bottom, and a very, very wide 18:9 screen, like is all the rage with kids these days. And and so the fingerprint reader has been relocated to the back. And the one photo we're looking at is has a translucent-ish back, which is I remember, that was a rumor, so I think it's happening. Let's see what the press release says,
it's
shall we?
happening. Translucent back.
I know, it's like we should have like an opera about it. So let's see. I want specs. Give me some specs. There you go. So let's have a look at specs that we will know what's going on. So 6-inch Quad HD Plus 2880 by 1440. So it's the same resolution as what's the phone I recently reviewed as a Pixel 2 XL and the V30. Super LCD 6. So it's LCD. It's not AMOLED. So this is going to be pretty damn good. I'll be honest with you. It doesn't have rounded corners either. It's just squares on the edges. Do we need rounded corners? No, but I have to admit, my old. My child's Macintosh heart is into the rounded corners somehow.
That's fair.
IP68 Oreo, as you said, HD Edge Sense, the squeeze thing is there. I'm trying to look at the important things because there's a lot of things in there. You're like, whatever.
835.
835. How much RAM? 4 gigs, 64, and 6 gigs, 128, depending on market. Micro SD up to 2 terabytes. Same camera, it looks like, as the big U11, the existing one. 12 MP, 1.4 micron with optical image stabilizer f/1.7. Yeah, it's the same camera. And then the front camera, I think, is that the same? I don't know. I have to look it up.
8 megapixel with 85-degree field of view, which
I think that's the same.
I appreciate that extra field of view when you've got a bunch of people.
Comes with Usonic earbuds. Doesn't say if it comes with a headphone adapter. Honestly, you're not missing out unless they make a new headphone adapter that sounds better. Buy the Pixel adapter for your U11. That's all I have to say.
I need to buy another one today.
So it's really the screen, and then I guess let's see, is there sensors for location, connectivity, battery? Oh, big battery, guys. 3930 milliamp hours.
That is pretty fantastic. I think that's one of the highest of the premium phones.
Probably, yeah, it is the highest that I've seen. So,
I think
Jeff,
higher
if
than
you're
Note
listening,
8.
I know this is not a US phone, but you know what to do, right? Send me and Flo both a phone.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We can use our Mint Sims.
That's correct. Oh, yeah, you're good at marketing. I love it. It's fantastic. Oh, cross-marketing. Okay. Let's see what else we have in here. I want to see this thing about the transparent. I know that there was some talk about transparent version or translucent.
I know. I'm trying to scan it too.
I'm looking at it real quick.
Doesn't have a beauty section.
Oh, there you go. Looks and feel like no other. HTC U11 Plus is designed with the same eye-catching award-winning liquid surface as the U11. Colors include sleek ceramic black, eye-catching amazing silver, and an unprecedented, are you guys ready? An unprecedented new color. Translucent black. Dun, dun,
Okay, that's
dun.
cool.
Do you see that? Are you on that page? It's page, what page is this? It's the fourth page in the press release, fifth page, sixth page, page 6.
Oh, man. Okay.
It says stunning design on the
I'm
title
jumping in.
page.
Oh, yeah, that is supposed to be see-through. Oh, yeah, there it is.
So I don't know if it has wireless charging. That's what we need to check. This might just be the NFC coil. Sorry, guys. I got you all excited about it. But let me check the specs for, because now I want to know if it has wireless charging.
Looks big in that press hand. I have to say.
It is going to be a big phone. 6 inches, even though, it's still, 6 inches is the same size screen as it's going to be about the same size as a Pixel 2 XL or as a V30. That's not too big, actually. Maybe they have small hands. It's Taiwan. Let's see, battery. No, it doesn't say anything about wireless. I was wrong. It probably doesn't have wireless charging, sadly. So I got your hopes up. But that coil is definitely the NFC coil. Cool though, right? Now you know exactly where to place the phone on the terminal when you pay. Because
you know what? That reminds me of those Game Boy Advance. Sorry, I'm just like Game Boy Colors.
No, go for it.
Remember when those came out and they came out see-through? Anyway.
Yeah, no, remember the whole translucent iMac world?
That's true. That was really in vogue in the late 90s. I think you should have made
it like Bondi Blue. Like Bondi Beach in Australia, HTC.
Oh, like the U11. Yeah, the U11 is signature little blue. Yeah, I like that.
Bondi Blue translucent U11. But the difference is this is glass.
Which makes it all the more polished and all the more cool.
At least I hope it is, because if you make another plastic phone, I'm going to lose my mind. Anyway, no, I'm pretty sure it's glass. It's a U11 Plus. Come on, it's going to be the best of the best of the best here.
I feel like I want to do a drop test, though.
Of course you would.
Metal versus plastic, and see from 2 stories.
I can guarantee you the U11 Life all plastic will survive drops way better than the U11 U11 Plus flagships. But that's not the point. You're paying that. Well, I guess you're paying half the price for the U11 Life, but for the big ones, you're paying a lot of money. So obviously you want, something that's like jewelry in your hand, because yeah, I don't know. A lot of people are against that and they think plastic is great, but I'm sorry. After it's just plastic gets so sweaty and nasty in your hand. That's kind of my problem. It does. So yeah. Anyway.
And it gets hot.
It's hot. That U11 Plus, Jeff, you heard us. It's happening. In my inbox as soon as you can. Please, please, please. All right. So we talked about HTC and we've done 30 minutes. Wow. Awesome.
I know.
We're doing good here. Okay. So Xiaomi Mi A1 Android One. I talked about it briefly. Did you get one?
No, I don't have much, sadly, I don't have much experience with Xiaomi, just because the publications I've worked for didn't really cover them.
Right.
Or at least when I was at PC World, because, US centric site, they're not really a US brand. But, I like what they're doing with Android One. I really enjoy the Moto X4 and just knowing the software program, the fact that you can rely on updates coming directly from Google.
Right. And so this is what got me excited, is most Xiaomi phones, you have to import into the US. Some of them come with Google Play services because they're sold in Hong Kong or Taiwan or India, and they have them. But most of them are sold in China and don't even have Google Play services. So they're basically, for me, essentially unusable, even though they're beautiful phones. Last year, I got a Xiaomi Note 2 review unit, and that was really nice. It looks a lot like a Galaxy S7 Edge Plus,
not bad.
The OLED display with the round edges. And with bezels on top and bottom, because it's before the whole 18:9 madness started prevailing. And so, and it was an Indian phone, so it had a Google Play services, and it's a worldwide band phone, so it worked great in the US on all the GSM networks. So it was a good experience, but it was heavily skinned and customized UI. So a bit odd. This A1, so the way I got it, and I want to thank the folks at Google, because the folks at Google who gave me a Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL to review said, hey, we have these Android One phones coming up. Do you want to play with them? And I said, definitely the Moto G4, because it's, going to be sold in the US. So they hooked me up and I reviewed it. There's a review video on my channel. I haven't mentioned much in the podcast. I really, really liked the Moto G4 Android One edition. Fantastic phone for the money. Feels like a rock star in hand. Dual camera is a little meh, but everything else super, super tight. And headphone jack and glass sandwich and metal glass sandwich. Woohoo.
Every time you say sandwich, I imagine
love metal glass
Oreos in my
sandwich.
head.
For me, metal glass sandwich is like how I keep my teeth sharp. I just chew on them and it's tasty and I get very happy. So, they said, hey, this phone is not sold in the US. It's for India, but we can probably connect you with Xiaomi PR to get you an A1 Android One. And I was like, oh, you can do that, can you? And so they did. And so I want to thank Google PR for making that happen for me, because now I have a relationship with Xiaomi, which I didn't have. And so what did Xiaomi do? Xiaomi did what they clearly know me well already. They did the right thing. They sent me a Xiaomi Mi 1 A1 Android One phone to review, and they sent me a Xiaomi Mi Mix 2. Because you know what? The Mi Mix 2 is the hottest phone in the entire universe. I don't know if you've ever seen one in person, but I suggest, Flo, you don't, because you will want to buy one. I was in Hong Kong.
Those Chinese phones, I got to tell you, they are pretty neat. And I really need to go to China and just look at phones.
I was in Hong Kong 2 weeks ago, and I hung out with Richard Live of Engadget, and he showed me his Xiaomi Mi Mix 2, and I was like, mine will take home with me now. And he's like, no, cannot. You cannot has. And I'm like, but I want. And so he said, we can go to the computer market and you can buy one. It's cheap. It's like $450. And I was like,
I think you posted a photo from that.
Yeah, I did.
think that's what I was thinking in my head.
But I resisted. And then, Google hooks me up with Xiaomi like a week later and I get a freaking Mi Mix 2 in the mail. So yes. So I unboxed it. It's on my YouTube channel. Have a look. It's hot and sexy. This thing. Oh my God. I don't know what to do with myself. It has, has Google Play services because it's an Indian phone, at least the one I have. So that's the news on Xiaomi. So the A1, let me talk quickly about the A1 Android. The thing that's amazing about the A1 Android is like all the Chinese phones is that it's $229 and it feels like a $500 phone in hand, right? Because all metal and glass, dual camera in the back. Basically, it looks like a rose. The one I have is rose gold. Imagine a rose gold OnePlus 5. And that's it. That's exactly what you're getting for $229.
I feel like I would love that.
But it's
I really
not
like
the specs of a OnePlus 5, sadly. So, it's $229 for mid-range specs in a OnePlus 5 body. Essentially, in design. It looks very generic. From the front, looks like an iPhone without the home button. From the back, it has a dual camera in the same location as the OnePlus 5, which is why I brought it up. And then it's very thin. It's all metal and glass. It has a headphone jack. Yes. It has USB-C, which is pretty dope. Which, by the way, the U11 Life also has USB-C because, U11 all have USB-C. And, because of Usonic. And so it has Snapdragon 625. So spec-wise is very similar to the G4 because it's dual camera, Snapdragon 625, and it has 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage for $229.
Dang.
Yeah, and micro SD, and it's dual SIM. Of course, it's dual SIM because there's not a single phone coming out of China that's not dual SIM. And what else am I missing? That's basically, and a massive battery is like 3,500 milliamp hour or something ridiculous.
That is a giant trend that I see really taking off.
And it's only a 5.5 inch phone, so it's actually relatively big. Like it's a little bit smaller than an iPhone 7 or iPhone 8 Plus, right? Like it's because it's essentially basically it's the same size as OnePlus 5, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not a small phone, but it's mid range. The display is only 1080p, but then again, the display on the OnePlus 5 is only 1080p, so it's an LCD. So here's the thing that like dampened my excitement. Yes, it's Android One. Yes, it looks great on paper and spec-wise, and it's all metal and glass. But when you start using it, you realize the display is kind of crap. Compared to other phones at that price range, even the Moto G5 Plus, which is just a little more, I think subsidized on Amazon, is on $10 more, $239. The displays, it's just really bright, but really undersaturated. And I'm wondering if it's like colors are muted. I'm wondering if it's not again, it could be a color tuning issue, just like the Pixel 2 XL, right?
Right.
So I don't want Xiaomi to be mad at me for saying this, but I was expecting slightly better display. And then the camera, again, same thing. It's perfectly serviceable. It has dual cameras like the iPhone, like the OnePlus 5, with one is a zoom, 2x zoom, permanent, and the other one is a regular. And so you can zoom in and out and stuff, and you can do portrait mode. But it's, just like the OnePlus 5 camera is decent, pretty good. It's not like, wow, right? And
right.
Now, scale that down to a $229 price point, and that's what you're getting. Look, perfectly serviceable, but it's not going to win any awards. So there you go. That's the nutshell of the Xiaomi A1 Android One phone. And, if you're on a budget, so I think it's still a pretty damn good candidate. The thing you should know that if you import that phone, it only works on T-Mo in the US properly because it only does LTE on T-Mo. Doesn't do LTE on AT&T. Forget Verizon and Sprint as usual.
How do you choose a phone when you live in these markets where all these crazy, kooky, wacky brands are putting together stuff?
Well, the good thing is most flagships now include all the bands, and a lot of phones like the G4 Moto One, the Moto G4 Android One edition does Verizon and Sprint. Like it's one phone for all the networks. And I had a Fi SIM in there from Google. And it worked in Hong Kong like a charm, right? Because, Fi gives you free data roaming like T-Mobile does. Right. And it was just flawless on their networks over there. So, clearly it's a universal. There's a few universal phones today, like the Pixels, the iPhones, some of the Samsung phones, some of the LG phones. I think the U11 is pretty much a universal phone if you buy the unlocked version. And Sprint is always a bit of a weird thing because they are the only one that still absolutely requires CDMA for voice. Yeah. Whereas Verizon will let you do voice over LTE. So even if you don't have CDMA, you can be on Verizon's network and still. Most places have LTE on Verizon now. So, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, this phone, basically, the Xiaomi A1 Android One, is going to only work on T-Mo LTE in the US. So get a Min SIM, right? See, I did the same thing as you, Flo.
There you go.
I'm on a roll today. So, yeah, I mean, if you get a chance, ping your Google contacts and see if you can get one. It'd be a fun one for All About Android.
Yeah, I would like to see what life is like with a Xiaomi phone in the United States of America.
Well, this one at least it'll get updated and it's running pure Android, so that's kind of the cool thing about it. That's the one thing that got me. And the RAM. I mean, 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage. Yeah, hook me up.
And you said it's rose gold?
The one I have is rose gold. Yes.
Rose gold sounds really nice.
No, it's nice. It's good. Speaking of OnePlus 5s, there are strong rumors. Dun, 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 of OnePlus 5T coming very soon. OnePlus 5T. If you remember last year, OnePlus stunned the world by announcing a 3T 3 months after launching the 3 and pissing off half of its customers.
It's about that time of year.
It's the time of year for OnePlus to piss off its customers again.
Just in time for Christmas.
And I just want to say, Eric is probably going to listen to this. And Eric, I love you and I love OnePlus. And I want to say that, you know what? I think you're doing the right thing. People... Last year you surprised everyone and maybe a little bit of heads up would have been nice, but this year we kind of expected it and it's all good. We now know that if you want to buy a OnePlus flagship, we wait till the fall. We don't buy the one in the spring. It's very simple, really. So this OnePlus 5T, what have you heard about it, Flo?
I've just been peeking on whatever Evan Blass has been teasing on the internet for the past couple of days. And I also just kind of feel like what a smart move to do this right before the holidays, because this is a time that everybody is like, oh, I can buy a new phone. Like, this is holiday time. I can justify this giant expenditure and like go into debt for it. So what should I get? You know, you don't have to go into debt for a OnePlus. They're pretty affordable as far as phones go. Have we heard anything about how much the 5T is going to cost?
No, I mean, look, I know nothing other than it's coming. You know, my sources are very strong that this is real. These are not just rumors. It's happening. The specs and the photos and everything. And Evan Blass is pretty spot on. So all this is true. I have no idea what the specs and the cost is at this point. I'm sure that Eric will be in touch soon with all the details, but I won't be able to talk about it anyway. And then I'll get a device at some point. So I'm sure I'll let you know. I'm going out of town for a little while, like traveling in Europe for conferences and stuff. So it's going to be a bit of a dry period for me in terms of getting new devices until I come back, because I'm gone for 3 weeks. But hey, when I come back, it'll be Christmas. I'll have all these packages waiting on my desk because my roommate will be there, like taking care of it for me. It'll be great.
Nice.
I have a Pixel Book coming. That's super exciting. You know, I'm a huge Chromebook person, so that's coming. As I said, I just got the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2, which wow. And then I finally am getting an essential phone shipped to me on Friday by the fine folks at Andy Rubin's startup. So that's it's taken a while. I've been on their waiting list for a while on that one, but it's happening. So you'll get my take on the essential. And then
you'll get to try it with all the new software.
Yeah, and then I suppose when I get back, there'll probably be a OnePlus 5T waiting for me. And then what else is coming? I don't know. I think we're kind of slowing down now. It's the end. Oh,
tiny bit.
iPhone 10. So let's talk about the iPhone 10 because actually before we do, I do want to hear what you think is going to be the price of the OnePlus 5T. Do you think they're going to stay the same price? Because last year it was only like $50 or $20 more than 3T, huh?
Yeah, it'll probably be around the same. I mean, what was it, like 5? Wait, was it $399 or $499? Shoot.
4 something, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so the OnePlus 5 is for something.
$469, I think, $479.
That's right. And then with the larger,
let's say $500, $499.
Yeah,
$529.
Maybe $550.
Yeah, I mean, so what we know so far, right, is ultra wide screen, 18:9 in the front.
Yep.
Relocating the fingerprint reader to the back. So it sounds a lot like the U11 Plus now, doesn't it? But you know the difference is I'm pretty sure we're not going to get a quad HD display. We're going to get a 1080p stretched 1080p. So 2160 by 1080. 2x1. I
mean, a battery life, a little less strain.
Yeah, for sure. And
maybe.
Snapdragon, I'm sure it's going to be Snapdragon 835. Unless they stun us and put a Snapdragon 845, if there is such a thing. I don't know. I have no inside info on that, but I'm just saying, like, it's obvious that at some point Qualcomm's going to announce a new chip soon.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it's more CS thing at this point.
Yeah.
So. And then what else would they do to this phone? I don't know.
Colors, some special color, maybe a red or a blue.
You know what I really want to see them do? And I hate to say this because people just bought OnePlus 5s, but the camera was the biggest disappointment for me on the OnePlus 5. It not because it was a bad camera per se, it was adequate and fine. It was just for a flagship, not worthy of a flagship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it tried really hard with the dual camera. It gave us dual camera, which is great. But for some people, at least, I'm not necessarily sure I need a dual camera. I'd rather have a single one that's really good. But it's just 2 cameras that were decent, not 2 really good cameras like the iPhone does.
I mean, just to tell you how much I think about the camera on the OnePlus 5, I don't, because you just reminded me it had dual cameras and I feel really bad for just completely blanking on that. But that's because everybody has been talking about, like, we've been comparing LG, Samsung Pixels this last year. Like that's kind of the bar has been set there.
All right. So yeah, I look, I'm excited. I love OnePlus. I think
me too. Like I always suggest them to
like
people
HTC,
who want to save a buck.
They're like what HTC used to be years ago, like a little baby disruptor, right? They come in, they're like, haha, screw you all. Check out what we're doing. Yeah, we're undercutting you, and it's great. And everybody that owns a OnePlus loves it. So
yeah, they do. So they do. I still see people with like older OnePlus devices, and they love them.
Yep. So iPhone 10. Let's talk about that simply because, as you know, I alluded in the beginning, normally, and I know this from my days at Engadget where Apple would talk to me. Now I don't exist anymore. They don't know who I am.
It's not just you.
I think only having Engadget next to my name was something at the time, I guess. They would give you a review in it. Like, actually, this is a great story. They would take you into a special room after the keynote, and you basically got strip searched. And no, I'm joking. It's not true. But it was like this. No, it was this crazy thing where, like, imagine being a room where you're the single person that's of your organization, like the reporter, and there's 5 people from Apple, like 5, like the 2 PR people and 3 execs, and they basically, it's like an interrogation. Are you going to like this phone? Are you going to review this phone properly? Are you going to like it? Is it going to be good? I'm joking, but it's it's very intimidating. And they don't interrogate you, of course not. I'm joking, but they basically drill all the key selling points and key features and key differentiators into your head. And once they feel that you've kind of repeated them back properly, they give you a little baggie with the phone in it. And then they look at you and go like, you can't show it to anyone. Well, we just show it on the keynote. We just did a hands-on downstairs in the hands-on room. Why can't I show it? You can't show it to anyone. And I'm like, how am I going to review a phone if I can't take it outside the house? Right. And then they say, and you're the only one who can review it. Nobody else in your organization can review it. Right. And then you have a week. That's the typical recipe. You know, and I don't look, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm saying this with a big smirk on my face. Like, I have no beef with Apple. I love Apple. I'm a big Mac user. I think the iPhone is a great phone for the big majority of people. I'm personally not a big iOS fan, but I get it. And I'm making fun of their PR process because it is a little bit unusual compared to the rest of the world, and it always feels like you're kind of passing a test in many ways going there. And of course, now I'm not important enough anymore. But this time, the reason I'm telling you guys all this, and Flo knows, is that this time, what did they do, Flo? Want to tell the audience?
They seated it, I believe, to only a handful of journalists and to a bucketful of hashtag influencers.
And to the journalists, I think it was 3 tech journalists got it for a week. Everyone else got it for a day before the embargo lifted. A day. Now,
that's right.
Tell Flo, the audience, what happens when you're a journalist like we are and you get a day embargo. What happens in your head? Little atom bombs go off.
Yes, and you freak out and you have a panic attack, and then you take a second to breathe, and then you realize you have to start outlining your thoughts because you need to write a bunch.
Yeah. And so what a lot of people did was first impressions. That's why you saw The Verge and Engadget did not have reviews out when the embargo lifted. What was it? Tuesday morning? They just had their thoughts, their first impressions, because they'd literally gotten it Monday morning. And what are you going to do when it's such an important phone, right? Right. Well, you have to do it some justice, and you can't do justice in just a day. Well, not only that, but you need to be in the news cycle, so you need to have something out, right? Right. So anyway, I have a lot of respect and a lot of pain sharing. I'm sharing the pain that my friends like, Chris Velasco at Engadget and Eli Patel at The Verge and others have endured to get this stuff and their teams, because it's no longer a single person effort at that point. Even though you're the only one who's allowed to review it, you need to get the help of all your photographers and videographers and, it's
a community effort.
You need to get
that's why it's
somebody to bring you food and coffee, and you need an IV supply of fluids. Yeah. Because you're at this point not sleeping for 48 hours. Yep. So, but what's your take so far on the reviews or previews?
I'm not not the biggest iPhone fan.
Oh, come on, Flo. You
secretly
are an iPhone toter. I have seen you.
No, I actually, the last time I toted an iPhone was the iPhone 4S. That was ages ago. But I will say, I think what's interesting is the sort of the aesthetic that has been permeating throughout like smartphone design, just to see like the rounded edges on the iPhone 10 and how they sort of correspond with like the rounded edges on the LG V30. And then you kind of have the same like design paradigm on the Pixel 2 XL. And it's just kind of interesting to see everybody moving at the same speed in the flagship world.
Definitely. I'm actually really excited that Apple is making a phone that I want this year. Like, you know, that's...
I like it. It looks Android-y to me, I will say.
Well, it looks Android-y, but mostly it looks sexy. It looks hot. It looks different. It looks cool.
That's what I mean by Android-y. It looks sexy.
Because Android phones are cool. Yeah, I know. Because iPhones have been boring forever. Look, I'll be honest with you. From a pure innovation perspective, and this is me as a longtime Apple fan and Mac user, I feel like the last innovation we had from an iPhone was the 4. When they went Retina display and they went stainless steel and glass sandwich. I mean, it was jewelry. Nobody could touch it back then. Nobody made a phone with that fit and finish and a display with that high resolution. It was groundbreaking, truly was. And I bought one day one, and one for myself and one for my spouse, because Theo is a huge Apple iOS user, and me, I needed to review one. And this is this is I think the summer that I joined Engadget, 2010. So I just bought it. I was in Canada at the time. That's the only place that you could buy it unlocked in North America. And I happened to be there in Vancouver, BC on launch day. So I was like, I'm lining up early and I'm doing it. And I did. But then the 4S was a repeat of that. I wasn't too surprised. That's totally okay. Then the 5 came out, and I felt that the 5 was a downgrade in terms of aesthetics to me. And the 5S was the next one. At that point, I reviewed the 5S and the 5C for Engadget. And the 5S was, to me, the next innovations, because they were the first to make a fingerprint reader actually work properly. If you remember, Android had fingerprint readers way before that, starting with the Atrix. But you had to swipe them. Yeah. And they just didn't work reliably, and you would never enable them. You try it out, you'd get mad, and you'd be like, forget it, this is not baked.
Yeah, like the readers on the HP laptops.
or like, honestly, to me, the Retina scan, the eye scanning on the Samsung Galaxies today doesn't work with me. Half the time it doesn't work, so I don't enable it anymore. So that's the last innovation, 5S, in my opinion. After that, it's all being rinse and repeat. Sure, they had to make bigger phones. They made bigger phones. People say the camera were innovated. They were, but compared to Android, they were basically always behind. And I hate to say this, but Pixel last year stole iPhone 7's camera lunch, and I think Pixel 2 this year is stealing iPhone 8's camera lunch, because it can do portrait better than the iPhone 8 with a single lens. Ouch. I mean, it is the Pixel 2, I've talked about extensively in the last 2 podcasts, is a remarkable phone in terms of imaging. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it is.
But the point I'm making here is that I'm excited about the 10, the iPhone 10 or iPhone X, because finally, innovation. Edge-to-edge display, this crazy idea that you're not going to need a fingerprint reader, and that we can make retina scan or facial scan not only secure, but reliable. Apple's the only one who has the balls to pull that off, and probably will pull it off. There'll be a few little hiccups in the beginnings, but I think it's going to work reliably. Like Touch ID was a little hiccupy at the beginning, but ended up working just fine. And everybody uses it, and now everybody doesn't even think twice of having a fingerprint reader on even $100 phone like the E4, Moto E4, fantastic phone that sells for $80 at Verizon. So there you have it. That's my takeaway. There are some people having issues with Face ID. Nilay was having some issues with it. Michael Fisher said he wasn't 100% sure yet on whether it's 100% reliable for him. So, but Apple has technical chops out the kazoo. They will make it work. And I think the idea, I'm not 100% sure that I like the idea of having to look at my phone to unlock it. But if you think about it, eventually it'll get so fast that you will
eventually
get to your, maybe not this gen, but the next gen, you will just look at your phone and it'll be natural, right? Right now, what I love about the fingerprint reader, particularly for me, is when it's in the back of the phone, like the Pixel, where when I put my hand in my pocket, I touch the fingerprint reader and I pull the phone out. And by the time I look at it, it's unlocked. So if they can reduce the latency, at some point you need to look at your phone. There's just no doubt about it. So yeah. But other than that, the display, nothing is new, right? Like they are not, like the display is phenomenal, AMOLED edge to edge. Of course it is. Like, so does the Mi Mix 2, so does the Essential phone, so does the Galaxies with amazing OLEDs. It has a dual camera system with dual OIS. Well, guess what? The Note 8 has a dual camera system with one being a zoom camera with dual OIS. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm sure it's going to be good, but so is the Note 8. I hate to tell everyone, but the Note 8 is a pretty freaking solid camera, okay?
It is.
And so then the processor is the only thing I think that Apple is way ahead of the competition. And, I love Qualcomm dearly, but I think Apple is eating their lunch when it comes to processor performance. Of course, nobody can experience that because, well, I shouldn't say that. Lots of people experience it because they're iPhone users. But for us who are Android users, we can't compare a Snapdragon 835 with, an Apple A11 Bionic because it's a different OS, right? So a lot of the performance we're seeing is also related to the OS performance and other things. So I think Apple has some pretty serious processor chops up their sleeve, and we're seeing that with these phones. So yeah. So what did you do? Obviously you're not an iPhone user, but you are a tech journalist and you don't have access to Apple, just like me. So yes, I obviously pinged Apple when the iPhone 10 became public and said, hey, PR folks, will you send me a review unit? And I believe I got an email back saying, fuck you, Miriam. Ha 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 ha. That's not true. But basically I got an email saying, no, thank you. So at that point, I decided maybe I should order one because this is, I think, significant enough historically, 10th anniversary and all that I should buy one. And so I stayed up late on, not really late because the West Coast, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
1 a.m. Noon, not midnight. Not 3 a.m. for us. I stayed up and I decided to order it. And then I went to order it. I was ready. Like I was on an iPhone, so I was renewing the Apple Store app, and I was like, I could have gotten one and delivered it on the 3rd of November. I was early enough, and I went through the motions, and then I got to the checkout, and I couldn't buy one.
Oh no, why?
Because I wanted the Verizon one unlocked full price, because it's the one with the Qualcomm radio in it, which is the better radio, because the AT&T Mobile SKUs have the Intel radio in them, which isn't as good. And the Sprint and the Verizon one are basically the Qualcomm worldwide SKU in terms of radio. And I had to have a Verizon phone number, zip code, and PIN, like the PIN being usually the last four of social, to buy a phone full price unlocked from Verizon. They don't sell the iPhone 10 unlocked from Apple.
Oh,
like you can buy it if you're a Verizon customer, pay full price, and then you have an unlocked iPhone 10 and you can put any SIM in it. But you have to have an account. And I don't. And more importantly, if I want to get the T-Mobile version, I could have totally gotten the T-Mobile version full price, because if you buy the full price T-Mobile version, it is unlocked. And T-Mobile does not require to prove that you have a line to buy it. So you're going to say, technically, Apple does sell an unlocked iPhone 10. You buy the T-Mobile one full price. But that's with the Intel radio, which is not what I want. So I said, you know what? Forget it. No, this is obviously not working my way. The universe is telling me this is not meant to happen. I'm not going to do it.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound very user-friendly.
So I decided to skip it. And you know what? I'm going to bide my time. And as soon as either Apple announces the unlocked version officially on their website, which will, by the way, be the Verizon SKU, the Qualcomm SKU, or as soon as, the rush ends and maybe I can get piggyback on a friend's Verizon account to buy one, then I will. But at this point, I'm just going to say, you know what, let others review this, and I will chime in a few months when I can get my hands on one. And that's basically the bottom line. And I know you listeners are not happy about that, but hey, you know, that's the best I can do. I just can't justify spending money on an Intel model when it's $1,000 that I will not daily drive, guys. I will not daily drive it, and it'll be obsolete in a year. Like, think about that.
It's a lot of money.
So at least if it's the Verizon SKU, I can sell it to someone who's, you know, I have more options to who I sell it to. Verizon customers, Sprint customers, etc. Yeah. So that's my story about the iPhone 10. Scary, right?
Yeah.
Would you buy one? Like, would you try to go to Apple from here? Like, are you impressed enough?
I just have a personal aversion to iOS and the way that it looks. Like, I am an Apple user. I use Macs for work whenever they are provided for me, because typically I am not in the price range for one.
Right.
But professionally, I've been using Apple for a long time. So I appreciate the desktop ecosystem. The mobile ecosystem, though, I'm so entrenched in everything Google does. It's hard for me to break out of that mold. I became an Android user because iPhone was not a choice as a Verizon customer back in the
early days.
Yeah, whatever, early days of smartphones, so to speak. And I just sort of learned to love the ways of Android and appreciate it. And now we're at this point where this design paradigm has taken over. You've got material design. There's just this nice, like, sort of, I don't want to say homogeny, but it's just this nice little, just across the board, you get a similar ecosystem experience. And so for that, that's kind of why it's hard for me to think about going to an iPhone.
I agree. I mean, Android is getting more and more cohesive, right, over time. And that's really exciting to me. And even if you have a phone like the Xiaomi Mix 2 that I'm about to take on my vacation with me, or my trip to Europe, you know, like, I put the Android Now the Google Now launcher on it, and I get like 90% of the experience I really want to get at this point, you know?
Yeah,
so it's not so bad. I mean, remember when Huawei had their weird notification tray that, you know, we would lose our minds over that? Now even they went back to like more of a stock Android experience on their stuff. So ish. I mean, it's still not perfect, but I mean, it's manageable, right? You don't feel like you want to throw the phone against. Well, at least I don't anymore. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting for sure. I think that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of us were weaned on Android early on, and we just, even though we're Mac users, we're like, nope, not going to happen, forget it.
But at the same time, like, my parents are polarizing. You know, my mother is an Android user and my dad is an iPhone user.
Oh,
and
wow.
He loves, you know, both my parents, which is kind of funny because they're just both like, you know, they're both immigrants and did not grow up with this stuff.
Right.
But they're super into tech. They love it. It's fun for them as it is for me. And so we share that in our family. And there's a fun little rivalry, you know, we've got the gals are on Android and the dudes are on iPhone. So my brother and my dad, I just am trying to figure out how to develop my dad's ecosystem at home, though, because he is a little fragmented. He's got like Amazon devices, but he is a staunch iOS user and Mac user now. So I'm trying to figure out how to put him on like an ecosystem that works for him. It's
tough. Like we have that problem here, right? Theo's an iPhone user. I'm Android almost all the way, but we're both Mac users, and obviously we have Amazon. So we kind of, we make it converge best we can. The big winning battle I got was that we got a family subscription to Google Play Music. So he loves it, and he's using it on the iPhone, of course. So there you go. So now we have some commonality there.
Yes.
And so that made life a lot easier for everyone. And then, but, we don't have too much in terms of books. A lot of that is just in Amazon. We have a bunch of Echoes around the house, but we also have a bunch of Google Homes around the house. So we have both, right? And
you don't have any Cortana Invokes?
No, sorry. No, I mean, I love Cortana. I've got a few PCs running Windows 10, and I have to say, I have the Surface laptop. I've said this on numerous podcasts now, but wow, what a device. I love it. It's really solid. And the out-of-box experience felt like a Mac. Everything worked out of the box. Nothing's broken. Everything is seamless. Other than, it's Windows and it's a bit, sometimes it shows its rears its ugly head of oldness. Mostly it's really been refined and polished to a place where I feel I could live with it, especially with the hardware being what it is, a Surface laptop, top-notch hardware.
I actually had a chance to actually have the Invoke, and using Cortana is interesting. It's interesting. It's different, and I thought that it was going to be worse, but I found out that it's kind of the same, at least for what I need it for.
Uh-huh.
The only thing is just not as robust as the other assistants. You can't schedule. Anyway, that's all IoT stuff, but it's just something I've been thinking about with all these virtual assistants coming into play and all these smart speakers that are being introduced for the holiday season.
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, I feel like Google Assistant is the strongest one of them all. And,
I agree.
And I'm leaning towards turning my entire home automation ecosystem into something Assistant can deal with. Right now, a lot of it is on Echo and Alexa because they were the first to really integrate well with a lot of home automation.
To be fair, they still have the most.
They do, but at the same time, I don't order, I've disabled ordering things on Amazon on my Echoes because, I have roommates in both my homes in SF and Portland. I don't want them randomly ordering crap. Well,
I'm not ordering from Amazon as much as I used to, I should say.
And then, I mean, the other thing is really only use it to say, turn on my lights and what's the weather and where is the traffic bad right now? And, and honestly, the traffic Google handles way better anyway. So I don't know.
Cortana does it too, by the way.
Okay, cool.
And it was pretty spot on, at least for how long it takes to get to Petaluma.
Sweet. Well, listen, we should wrap it up. I want you to get a chance to pimp yourself right now. And I tell people where they can find you. I know this is all about Android, of course, but just tell people where they can follow you because I think you're an amazing woman in tech like me. And we need more voices out there and I want people to listen to you more.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Since I'm freelancing now, I'm kind of sort of all over the place. You can read me. You'll see me pop up at Android Authority and at PC World and at Tom's Guide, kind of where I'm doing work lately. I'm writing still about Android phones, but I'm also writing about IoT, kind of delving into that world. Also, in addition to All About Android, you can listen to me on the Material podcast on the Relay Network, and that publishes every Thursday. So that's with Andy Anatko and Russell Ivanovich from Shifty Jelly. It's just a Google podcast where we wax poetic every week. But other than that, just follow me on Twitter at Oh That Flow. That's how to keep up with me.
Yep. Oh That Flow. Check it out. All right. Well, thanks, Flo, for being on. This was a really great podcast. I think
Thank you for having
listeners
me.
are going to love it because we were goofy together. Like a mini All About Android reunion without Jason or, all the rest of the gang. It's unfortunate.
Or the Oreo eating, which we've been doing a lot of.
Oh, my God. You guys are hilarious. I love this show. You guys know where to find me. I'm at TNKGRL, Tankgirl without the vowel, on Twitter. You know that you can find this podcast and tell your friends about this podcast. mobiletechpodcast.com on World Podcasts. We're on iTunes. We're on Pocket Casts and all the other major platforms as well. And you can find my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Miriam Jouar. Just spell out my name, Miriam with a Y, and you'll get some beautiful content to complement this podcast, videos of unboxings and things like that. Stay tuned for next week. I've got a really cool guest. I'll be in Europe with a European guest, and we'll talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm sure there'll be some news, but it never gets boring in the mobile world, right, Flo?
True that.
All right. Cheers, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.